Hi everyone, hope you all are fine. So today we are going ahead with or we are continuing with the previous session what we have discussed, that is intraocular barriers. In our last class we have discussed about the introduction and few barriers on the intraocular barriers. The ocular barriers were classified as two, that was anterior segment barriers and posterior segment barriers. I hope you remember the classification where we discussed what are the anterior segment barriers, etc. So those who do not remember, please listen to the previous sessions. So as a recap of the previous session, the anterior segment barriers and the posterior segment barriers are classified into two, that was anterior segment static barriers and anterior segment dynamic barriers. The same way, posterior segment barriers also were classified into two, as the posterior segment static barrier and dynamic barriers. What are the anterior segment static barriers? That was cornea, conjunctiva, iris ciliary body, lens, then blood aqueous barriers and efflux pumps. So these were the anterior segment static barriers. This we have discussed in detail in our last class. And we have another anterior segment dynamic barriers includes tear drainage, conjunctival lymph and blood flow, and aqueous barrier. So these were the anterior segment dynamic barriers. So this we have discussed in our previous session. So today we are going ahead with the another topic, that is the posterior segment. Now, what are the posterior segment barriers? This is a classification of posterior segment static barriers, which includes sclera, Bruch's membrane, blood retinal barrier, and again the efflux pump. Let us discuss one by one. Sclera, as you know, it's again one of the outermost layer, and we have discussed much detail about the anatomy of sclera in the anatomical portion of the ocular anatomy. And this sclera provides the protection, and it also prevents the entry of various exogenous or the foreign substances into the posterior segment of our eye. So sclera has one of the main function as to protect from the foreign substances. As scleral anatomical nature itself is to protect, this always will have the tendency to prevent the entry of many sorts of unwanted substances into the eye. Thus, the permeation of the drug also across the sclera will be a tedious or a difficult task. Again, that is depends upon the physical nature of the drug molecule as well as the molecular size, etc. That means it depends on certain physicochemical characteristics. The drug permeability across this sclera that reduces with increase in lipophilicity and increase in the molecular size. So this is one of the opposite phenomenon what we are seeing, what is something different from what you have said already studied. Because in our GI or in other membranes also, the lipophilicity always increases the permeability of the drug molecule, whereas here the phenomenon or the criteria is just opposite. The lipophilicity decreases the permeation of the drug through the ocular barriers, as well as the molecular radius or the molecular size increases, also it reduces this permeation. Hence, the molecules with the higher lipophilicity and the large molecular size may prevent it from permeation to this sclera. Another one more factor is the charge of the molecule. The opposite charged molecules also limit its permeation to the sclera. If the drug what we are administering, if again it has an oppositively charged molecules, or the drug itself can bind with the ions what is present in our tear drainage system, or what is present in the eye, the aqueous humor, etc. So this drug molecule can bond with the oppositively charged substances. So this oppositively charged substances may become a macromolecule, and these molecules may be trapped in the pores of the sclera, causing the low permeability. And this maybe happens because of the interaction between the negatively charged pores and the proteoglycan matrix. So as a result of the interaction of the drug with the oppositively charged molecules, this forms a macromolecule, and this macromolecule can close, or it can be trapped in the pores of our sclera. So what happens ultimately? The pores gets closed, and it's not mandatory that in all the situations this must happen. It's not nothing like that. Sometimes again it depends upon the molecular size after the interaction. So if it's closes, or if it's trapped inside the pores, obviously it closes the pores and it reduces the permeation. The next factor that can affect the permeation is the scleral thickness. Now, the thickness of the sclera varies from position to position. That means at various anatomical locations of our ocula eye, the thickness of the sclera varies. It is very thick in the posterior segment near the optic nerve. And due to this thickness, the sclera has low permeability for the drug molecule. So the permeability of the drug through the sclera is not an even process. It varies from position to position, location to location. The reason behind this is the varying thickness of the sclera. So that's all about the sclera, how sclera act as a barrier. So we were discussing on the intraocular barriers, and sclera that comes under the posterior segment static barrier. Because of the thickness of the sclera, since the sclera is having the more protective in nature, the permeation of drug molecule through the sclera depends upon the physical nature of the drug molecule. Secondly, the charge of the drug molecule can affect. Thirdly, the thickness of the sclera again can affect the permeability of the drug molecules. The second part of the eye that can act as a barrier for the permeation of the drug is Bruch's membrane. The Bruch membrane is partially that's involved in regulating the exchange of nutrients and various fluids, and it removes the metabolic wastes, it carries the oxygen and other biomolecules between the choroidal blood circulation and the retina. As we know, retina is one of the main important part of the eye which helps in the vision. Now, the Bruch's membrane has a main role in the transportation of the nutrients, the removal of waste, transportation of oxygen, etc. into the retina through the choroidal blood circulation. So, as we studied in the previous year, the main barriers in our body, that's again the blood-brain barrier and the cerebrospinal fluid barriers. It has again its own anatomy and it has its own purposes. The same way, Here, the britchous membrane also helps or act as it to carry the nutrients or the proteins or the oxygen into the retina. Thus, since the retina is one of the most important part of our eye, which support for the vision, the retina must be well protected. So, based on the basic physiology of our body itself, the God has created the retina in such a way that it must be well protected. Thus, the drug molecules again to reach the retina by crossing the britchous membrane becomes a very difficult task. Now, the thickness of this britchous membrane increases with certain factors like age. So, as the age goes, there is calcification in the britchous membrane, and the high collagen finger cross linking and glycosaminoglycan turnover can happen. So sedimentation of the calcium, collagen, etc. on this britchous membrane makes this membrane more thicker and thicker, which result in a decreased permeation of the drug molecule. Now, the change in thickness of this membrane also can affect the permeability of molecules from the sclera into the retinal tissue. Now, most of the drugs may lost in the choroid before reaching in the britchous membrane. So, because of this thickness and because of the certain previous factors what we have discussed in the sclera, the permeation or many of the drugs has been lost in this passage through the sclera as well as through the britchous membrane. Now, what happens during the disease conditions in the old age? So, not only in the old age, in the disease condition or age-related disease conditions or the macular degeneration increased, the accumulation of debris cause and oxidative stress, etc. At these conditions, there are possibilities for chronic inflammation to this britchous membrane. The first thing is, at any of the diseased conditions, depends on age or independent of the age. Secondly, the macular degeneration or accumulation of extracellular debris, any of this matter can result in what? Result in the chronic inflammation to this membrane. Now, inflammation of these cells which reduces again the transport of nutrients and the drug substances, and this may contribute in the development of the secondary metabolic stress. So as a result of what? Result of the chronic inflammation, as a result of the chronic inflammation to the britchous membrane, this prevents the entry of drugs as well as nutrients into the retina. The next one is the blood-retinal barrier. Again, this barrier, as I said, it's something similar to that of the blood-brain barrier. This BRB, that is blood-retinal barrier, is two parts, or it's composed of an inner and an outer layer. An inner layer and an outer layer. Now, the outer layer is composed of what? Outer layer is composed of the tight junctions of retinal pigment epithelium and retinal capillary endothelial cells. Blood-retinal barrier. The barrier that protects the entry of unwanted substances from the blood into the retina. So that is again the main function of the blood-retinal barrier. The same way we studied the blood-brain barrier, again that protect the blood-brain barrier, protect the entry of unwanted substances from the blood into the brain. There it forms on the surface of the capillary endothelium and the brain cells. Here we are seeing the blood-retinal barrier. This barrier also protects the entry of unwanted substances from the blood into the retina. Now, this barrier has two layers, an inner and an outer layer. The outer layer is composed of two components. The first component is retinal pigment epithelium and the second component is retinal capillary endothelial cells. Okay, so the retinal pigment epithelium, that means it is a epithelial cells of the retina along with the endothelial cells of the capillaries which carries the blood into the retina. So the capillary walls or the endothelial cells of the capillary along with the epithelial cells of the retina contributes together to form the tight outer layer of the blood retinal barrier. I hope it's clear. Now, the zonal occlusions of the blood retinal barrier separates the retinal photoreceptors from RPE, that is, both astrocytes and Muller cells provides the necessary function to support these tight junctions. So here we discussed the outer layer is formed of RPE as well as capillary endothelial cells. Again, to support this combination of RPE and capillary endothelial cells, we have both astrocytes as well as the Muller cells, which again provides as a functional support to this tight junction that's formed by the RPE and the capillary endothelial cells. Now, these two cells together regulate the exchange of substances between the outer choroid and the inner retina. Now, astrocytes helps to maintain the integrity and enhances the barrier property of retinal capillary endothelial cells and provide protection to inner retinal cells from circulating molecules in the retinal circulation. So, astrocytes also plays a major role in regulating the entry of substances across the endothelial capillaries. Similar to the blood-brain barrier, here also we have the lack of fenestrations in the epithelial cells and endothelial cells, which also prevent the passive entry of the drug substances. So this makes the main characteristics of the barrier, like especially the astrocytes and the lack of fenestrations and the retinal pigment epithelium and the capillary endothelial cells. All these cells plays a major role in the formation of blood retinal barrier. Now, RPE allows diffusion of very small molecules like the oxygen or gaseous substances and certain lipophilic molecules to the inner retinal tissues. Thus, the transport of molecules may mediated with the help of certain energy or depend on the pinocytosis. Therefore, the drug entry is highly restricted to the presence of the tight junctions. Now, same like again the blood-brain barrier, the RPE that allows only the small molecules. Apart from this, because we have discussed in the passive transport system, the physiochemical nature of the molecules were very much important. Whereas here An energy mediated transport system also happens, that is mediated by a receptor or mediated by energy. Thus the drug entry is restricted through these tight junctions. The last factor that can affect that act as a barrier is the efflux pumps. This we have already discussed in the anterior segments also. As you know, these pumps that present in the surface of the membrane that carries the drugs from the inner surface towards the outer surface. And the main example of this was P-glycoprotein. Since we have discussed it, I am not going much deep into this topic. The last part is the posterior segment dynamic barriers. So far discussed on the posterior segment static barriers, which includes the sclera, Bruch's membrane, blood-retinal barrier, and the efflux pump. Now, the posterior segment dynamic barriers includes only one, that is the choroidal blood and the lymph circulation. The choroidal blood and the lymph circulation. So the choroid is a highly vascularized cells with more than 80% is vascularized, and a huge amount of blood is supplied into this choroid, and which also has a sufficient lymph vessels for the lymphatic circulation. Now what happens now? The drug what you are administering can enter to this blood circulation or can enter into this lymphatic circulation, which result in, or this blood circulation or this lymphatic circulation can act as the drainage for the drug molecule. So the drug what crossing this capillary cells blood circulation, it enters into the blood and it is being taken by the main arteries of our body into the peripheral parts of the body. So ultimately what happens, the drug which is expected to be reached into the ocula doesn't enter into the eye because of the higher blood circulation and due to the higher lymphatic circulation. This circulation acts as a drainage for your drug molecule. This restricts the entry of substance into the retinal tissues. Okay, so that's it for today. So these are some of the posterior segment barriers in our eye. Okay, so with this the barriers for the ocular systems gets completed. So you can go through the previous sessions. Those who are not clear on the topic, listen once again on the anterior segment and listen once again on the posterior segments. Okay, thank you.